everyone, and welcome to HippyFitMom.com. Thank you so much for joining me for another episode of HippyFitMom That's Skinny. I'm so excited because today I have with me Monique Ruffin. She is a blogger for Huffington Post, Mom.me, and PurpleClover.com. She is also the creator of the web series Generation Sex. We have a great show today. We are talking co-parenting, motherhood, and her show, Generation Sex. You won't want to miss this. So, let's get into it. But anyway, hi Monique, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with me today. Can you introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Sure. Thanks for having me, Amber. I'm really excited to be here. So, my name is Monique Ruffin. I am a blogger. I am a mother, and I host a web series called Generation Sex. So really, I'm for lack of a better word, I'm an entertainer and an activist and a mom. And I spend a lot of time parenting.
I bet. So now I read that your son has food allergies. Now,
yes.
We were told that my son initially had food allergies, and he supposedly was allergic to eggs, milk, peanuts, and a lot of other things. So with that information we received, it was hard to find things to eat, and it made living really hard. So I'm just curious about your journey with having a child with food allergies. How has it been?
Well, the funny thing about it is that my son is very picky, so he really won't eat. He eats hardly anything. He eats fresh fruit. He eats rice and beans. He eats oatmeal. And I can make blended juices for him. Wow. So if I want him to have vegetables, I put them into blended juices and disguise it with strawberries, almond milk, and bananas, and sometimes a little bit of pure sugar cane. The food allergies haven't been that difficult because he's a very picky eater. He would never put a peanut in his mouth just because he wouldn't put a peanut in his mouth. That's just who he is. Okay. And he won't eat eggs. He just has a very rigid diet. So I haven't really had to worry about food allergies. When I send him to places like camp, I do let them know that he has a food allergy and that I give EpiPens. I make sure everybody has an EpiPen if he's going to be somewhere for a long amount of time. We had some challenges with wheat, gluten, as you know. So we did make sure that his diet was completely clear of gluten, but recently we had him retested and it showed that it wasn't as severe as we thought. So now we can let him have a graham cracker or so and he's not having any reaction to it. But I watch him, I monitor, but it hasn't been that difficult because my son is such a picky eater and I can't get him to eat anything anyway.
Well, that's good because I know the gluten thing is really hard to deal with. I don't mind not eating gluten because, I don't know, I've kind of evolved as far as my health goes. So, but when it comes to other people, it doesn't seem like they understand it. So that's always the difficult part. It's not really with me, and even with my son, it wasn't really with him because he doesn't like, it turns out that he wasn't allergic to all those things, like milk, or he outgrew them, maybe, I don't know.
Right.
But it's really everyone else. They have issue with it, and I don't understand that.
I totally agree with you, and I don't do gluten either. I'm not allergic to it, but I have digestive challenges when I eat it, and I don't really do grains that much because I feel like I don't feel good after I've eaten rice. And people do have more challenges with it than I do. People, they have really interesting reactions, but I just sort of make put people at ease and say, it's okay, I don't eat weed. And people have I don't drink alcohol either. People have much more of a reaction to that.
I know, me too. Me too.
Than they do the food.
Now, you also mentioned that you co-parent. Now, how is that for you? Is it good, difficult? Is it easy peasy? How is that?
Well, it's been an evolution.
Okay.
And we first started, it was challenging just because of the dynamics that were going on between us as adults. It was never challenging because, like my ex-husband he just adores his son. Oh. So that was never an issue. Like, he's always been involved. Anytime I've ever said, like the first year we split, he literally came to my house every single day after work and bathed our son and gave him dinner and put him to bed. To the point that when I moved from the house that we lived in together into my own space, I said to him, you can't come anymore every day. Like, it's too much. And he was angry. He's like, it was almost like he felt like I was, taking our son away from him. And so I was like, you can come get him, but you cannot come into my house and be here for 2 hours every night. Like, I want a life.
Yeah.
So co-parenting for me is an evolution. It is a constant sort of opportunity to see where we are and to see how we're treating one another. And then we have personal things going on in our lives. Like, he might be going through a breakup with somebody, or I might be getting into it. So we have to be mindful. Like, we've done some, for lack of a better word, double dating. Not just the two of us, but with kids. Like, we've gone out to festivals and events with our date and our children. And we just do our best to put our children first.
Yeah.
And even if those children are the children of people we're dating, we just realize that kids deserve to have stable, emotionally mature, loving adults in their lives, and that is the choice that we make.
Yeah, that's great. That's great. Now,
it's not easy, but it's necessary.
I'm sure it's not. That's why I'm like, that's great. That's great.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I don't know how well I would deal with that kind of thing, but because I don't know. It's just, I know it's something that you really do have to put the kids first, but it would bother me to have someone else parent my child. I guess I'm a little more territorial when it comes to my kids, which is probably not the best way to think of it, but yeah, I would definitely think it's very difficult.
Yeah, I mean, there are challenges that I care about who's dating. Like, I do. I care about who my child is around. But I also trust his father. Like, I trust that he would not put him in an environment with somebody who didn't really love him very much and want the best for him. Mm-hmm. Like, so that is what it turns into. It's like, do I trust this man that loves his son to pieces?
Yeah, yeah.
Like, I wouldn't bring my son around anybody who wasn't responsible and kind and nurturing because I want the best for my son, and I know that his father feels exactly the same way. So I really do ultimately trust that his father is not going to put him in harm's way. And when things are right, we introduce one another to spouses and, to girlfriends and boyfriends and stuff like that. And, we're not like, there can be a little hesitation in it. I'm not going to act like we're like hippies. Like, no, we have challenges, but we just trust each other and we love our child.
And that's a good point. You still, even if the marriage is no longer, that trust still has to be there. That's a good point. Now, you have so many great things going on right now, it seems, and one awesome thing is being your web series, Generation Sex. Can you tell us about your show?
Yes. So I have a show called Generation Sex. It's a web series, and you can find it at purpleclover.com. And you can also find it on YouTube. And it is a show where I come together with 3 other guests, usually different ages. So I'm in my 40s, and there might be somebody in their 20s or 30s, and someone in their 50s, and maybe even 60s. And we have a conversation around a topic that's about sex. So we talk about sex and fitness, or we talk about men's ideas on female sexuality or dating and sex, and it's just really great fun because people love to talk about sex even though no one ever does.
So I want to go back a little bit. I want to backtrack. So what made you come up with a show like that? Like, what was it? Did you have like a moment where like, well, I want to talk about this? Or what was it?
Yes, so I started writing. I blog about sex as well.
Oh, okay.
And I blog, my stories are personal. They're not erotic, but they're personal. So here's what it is. So after I got divorced, I decided that I was going to have my own personal sexual revolution because I felt like I wasn't really, like I was missing something sexually. Like there was something about my womanhood that wasn't being expressed. And what I discovered was that it was connected to my sexuality, and it was around shame and guilt and fear of being judged and this idea that I should be a certain way in order to be lovable. Like I needed to be, I can't think of the word right now, but I basically needed to cover up my sexuality. Like I couldn't be true to myself. So even if I was with somebody that I had been with for a while or I was really connected to and already dating, I never felt like I was really being myself. Like I didn't have the courage to say, I would really like this, and I want to do this, and how would it feel if we tried this? And, like I just wasn't really speaking up and being myself. And I thought, how is it that I'm 40-something and I'm still being like a child around my sexuality? And so I decided to just start writing about it, and I decided that I wasn't going to be in an exclusive relationship and that I was going to explore. And how it really started was a friend of mine who I'm just friends with, we've not ever dated, but we're really good friends. He said to me, because my son has Down syndrome, and he said to me, Monique, do not lose yourself in parenting a child with special needs. Like, don't stop being sexy, don't stop dating, don't stop being a woman because you have become a mother of a child with special needs, and really nurture your sexual side. And I was like, what? I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, you don't have to lose out on who you are because you have this really, imposing challenge in your life. You need to, if you're going to take care of him well, you need to take care of yourself well. Yeah. And that's really where it came from. So I started, exploring what was missing in my sexual idea of myself. Not even necessarily my experience, but in what I believed to be true about me, that I had to behave a certain way, that I had to look a certain way, that men thought if you had certain, history that was bad or good. Like I just started challenging all of that stuff and saying, okay, I'm going to let it go. And then the show was born.
Oh, cool. That's an interesting story. And I like that he said that, that because I think even if you don't have a child with special needs, even just becoming a mother, sometimes I feel like I can't be parts of who I am anymore. Like, and I think it's pretty healthy to still be that woman. Yeah. And at the end of the day, you want to feel sexy. You want to feel like you're a woman.
Right. You want to feel desirable and beautiful and absolutely. And so that has been the journey. And it's not the easiest journey because, I don't always feel beautiful and I don't always feel desirable. And I'm tired and my kid won't leave me alone. But I am committed to it. So I do it as often as I can and I pay attention. And I write about it and I'm taking steps to be courageous around my sexuality.
Great. That's awesome. Now,
thank you.
Now I asked you, why do you do what you do? And you said, I do what I do in order to feel good. I need to feel good emotionally and physically, so I do my best to take care of myself in order to get good results. Now, what are some ways you take care of you?
Well, the sexuality part is one in the writing. So sexuality is not just about having sex. I mean, it really isn't. But it is about nurturing, giving myself the permission to feel sexy, or to acknowledge what my desires are, or to experience pleasure. Even if that pleasure is around food, and to be sensual, and to allow myself to be a woman. Like, and we live in a culture that is so hard driven and really about accomplishment, and so sometimes I just don't want to do any of that. Sometimes I just want to be soft and sensual and be in the bathtub or at the spa, and that's not about being a woman, but about being feminine. And maybe I can also help some of the men in my life slow down too, because it's an opportunity to just relax and take care of yourself and breathe. And so I do that. I have a lot of spiritual practices, like I meditate and I chant, and I also exercise quite a bit. And I do Pilates and yoga.
So I have one last question before we go.
Okay.
Who or what inspires you?
Well, I am inspired by nature. Inspires me. Like I love the rhythm of the earth. I just do. Like, I love trees. Like, I could look at a tree for like an hour.
Wow.
I mean, really, because it's like, especially blossoms, like trees that blossom are so fantastic to me. My son really inspires me because he has a learning, he's on a different learning curve. I get to watch words develop that weren't there last week, that are there this week. Like, I get to see his development in a way that having a typical child, you might not notice. You might possibly, you could take it for granted. But because he does things slower, I just get to watch him, and he makes me so happy. I just love him to pieces. I mean, he is just adorable. And he's a wild rat too. You know what I mean? Like, he will not be tamed. Like, it drives me crazy. But I'm very inspired by his joy. He's just authentically joyful. Yeah.
So if others want to continue the conversation with you, where can they find or contact you?
They can find me on Twitter at, my handle is just Monique Ruffin, no space in between. And they can find me on Facebook at Monique Ruffin. And they can check out my blogs at Huffington Post. And also at mom.me, where I blog about being a mom, and Purple Clover, where I blog about sex.
So thank you so much for joining me for another episode of HippyFitMom to Skinny, where we're obtaining insights and starting great conversations. And thank you, Monique, for taking the time to speak with me today. As always, I really appreciate it. And don't forget to listen live to The Hip Spot with me every Wednesday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. The link is below this video. Follow Monique and check out her web series because it's totally interesting for sure. And if you would like to be part of the conversation, certainly leave your comments below. And until next time.
Until next time, be sure to always look for anything you can be grateful for. It'll make your day go by so much better.
Okay, I love it. That's great. See you later.
Bye. I had fun. Thanks, Amber.